If you enjoy this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're doing a remastered review of the NECA King Kong original release version. Yes, another full-length review covering the NECA King Kong. And I'm going to be absolutely honest, making this video, because I'm currently recording this while I'm away from my setup, because I'm like all over the place and probably will be doing that for the foreseeable future. This was a figure I was intending to review previously, just to like give a more crystal clear, updated look at what is essentially NECA's first attempt at the Eighth Wonder of the World, like their own version of it. And I wanted to do this a while ago, but unfortunately circumstances just didn't line up. And you might also notice the setup looks a bit different. That is because we're not actually in my normal setup, because I'm traveling. I'm actually at a cabin. But that said, it's still pretty cool that I'm actually able to do this video on the go like this, because I actually not using my tripod. I'm using like a microphone tripod I reworked to fit my microphone. So with that said, we're going to be talking about the NECA King Kong, which was released in 2020 and basically just kind of spawned like a whole line, quote unquote, like 4 figures worth of King Kong stuff. So now that we're going back to the original Kong, is this guy outdated, or is he actually pretty cool even after all these years, 5 years to be exact? Let's find out. Starting off with sculpt and paint, we're going to be taking a look here at the head. And off the bat, for those that have not seen this figure before, this is actually more inspired, not necessarily based on, but heavily inspired by the 1933 King Kong head, which it's not 100% at first from memory. I thought this is what it looked like, but the 1933 head was a lot more puffy than this. This is almost like if you took a 1933 render and just ran it through like, I don't know, something that would make it more realistic, because proportionally this does look like more like an actual primate that would exist, rather than the more puffy stop-motion puppets of the original King Kong that they used. But to that I say, NECA did a really good job with the head sculpt. For the actual skin, which is more like wrapping around here from the lips to the top of the brow, it's going to be more like a matte gray color, which we can have a ton of darker dry brushings and washes to give this guy a lot more effect. The nostrils are actually sculpted in fairly far in, which I wasn't expecting. This one's got a bit less gray in it than this one does. I'm guessing because like gray would naturally be the base color of this whole sculpt, that the gray was painted over, and as a result they probably missed it. So I totally understand why it's not like that, or maybe I'm just having it flip the opposite way. It just looks like he has brown boogers. Before the eyes themselves, the eyes are done really well and are so full of character. The eyes are painted pretty flawlessly as far as like the actual eye itself. They're not like derped or anything. You can actually see the pupil in there, which looks pretty crisp with the orange iris, and of course the cleanly painted white eyeball, which don't really have like any over paintage. Maybe it has a tiny bit of orange over painted, although I think that's just the eye decal, because the face plate is actually a separate piece, but that's only because it's glued on. For the actual slashes, which yes, this figure does have slashes. If you didn't realize, there's 3 slashes there and 3 slashes here. And quickly glancing over, nope, that is all the slashes on this head. Did I say this head? Yeah, let's go back to that in just a sec. But as you can see, the blood that they chose, like the color of it, we're going to talk about that with the body, but I personally love the color choice. It looks so realistic, like Kong just got out of a fight, and it looks really gnarly. For the mouth, though, I will say that the teeth are as well sculpted as they are, because we have like the defined canines and then the little teeth as well, like his molars and such, his front teeth, back teeth, whatever. And then his tongue looks really well sculpted, as well as the paint on it, which has like a ton of wash, like a lighter magenta look for the gums and the tongue. And then a darker pinkish maroon color for the lips and gums, as well as like dark magenta and purple in there for the top of the mouth. Like, that looks realistic and also like very wet. I know it's a mouth, but that's to be expected. My main problem is just kind of the way the teeth are painted, because they look a little too, what's the word? Overly painted. I know that's a weird complaint, but let me explain. The teeth stop at a certain point, and the transition just looks solid. Like, I get that's almost how what teeth look like in the real life, because gums overlap teeth to hold them in. But at the same time, I don't know, because like in certain sections right there, the teeth are painted a bit iffy, and some of the teeth aren't painted all the way as far as like the correctness goes. I don't know why I'm going in and out of focus, but I am. And it just looks like some of the teeth are also molded together. So if there's one weakness with the paint, it would have to be the teeth on the head sculpt. But going down to the pecs, beautiful. Absolute beauty. Hold on, just quickly glancing over the actual fur sculpt. Actually, it's a base brown. Sorry, gray. Sorry, my apologies. It's a base gray, and it has brown painting and dry brushing over top of it, so you can really get a feel for the nice detail that's actually on this thing with the nicely sculpted in ears, which are pretty well done. Although I would actually say Playmates did a better job sculpting their ears. Anyway, back to the pecs. Beautiful. I love the way that these two pecs are done. As you can tell by the slashes, it looks like real blood. I even made the comment previously that it looks like someone at NECA was actually bleeding and just used their blood as the paint job. I'm sticking by that claim. Not that it actually is real, but it almost looks like it. Here we have some like more slashes. Like, doesn't that look like real blood? It looks like natural cuts from a real creature. That is amazing. And of course, the gray here makes a return. Very, very, very noticeable. And we have some gray down here, which at first I thought that was like to continue the pecs, but no, the pecs are only here, and then the rest here is fur. So that is unfortunate that they didn't paint that part, but everywhere else is actually pretty well sculpted and painted. As we can tell with the shoulders here, where they meet the shoulders, and then towards the back where it does get a bit more towards the gray area, where the brown does kind of stop, mainly like in this midsection, and then the brown wash almost becomes like a bit green in some areas, but it doesn't look that bad as far as the sculpt department goes. It's very well done with the fur, and I do like what we have here. For the actual shoulders in question, though, I will say proportionally they are a bit longer than what I'd like them to be. I'd say a bit more right here would have been better. But because it does look a bit more human than it does look more like a gorilla or like Kong. Because Kong, yes, proportionally always had long arms, but this almost looks more like somewhere between a human and orangutan. Because an orangutan has incredibly long arms. Anyway. Accuracy aside, because this is technically NECA's own version of Kong, the dry brushing makes a return with the black gray base plastic with fur details and a brown dry brush and wash to kind of complement it, and as you can see, looks really nice. Like, this fur detail looks amazing, and the paint, where there is paint, actually looks really good. And though some parts of it do look a little bit dried up and like not as painted as it should be, because like some parts you have like a crap ton of brown, not so much brown, crap ton of brown, crap ton of brown, and then like on certain sections of it, not really much brown. But so that's kind of a problem throughout this figure, and I also own another one, so that's also a bit like that. But for the fist, looking like an actual human fist, this looks incredible. The nice gray plastic and like the mild wash that's applied to it looks absolutely immaculate, and I love the way that this thing looks. Going to this arm, just to briefly show you, it has about the same as what you would expect on the other arm. As you can see here, looks very nice, very incredible, and I just love the way that this thing looks. Now, down to the legs, which are going to be more or less the same way the arms are. Proportionally, they are very long legs. Like, again, in comparison to, like, something like the Peter Jackson or MonsterVerse Kong, even though this figure is not supposed to be either of those incarnations, you could really substitute it in if you really wanted to. But with that said, the fur detail goes really well done, and the dry brushing itself, where there is like consistent dry brushing, is done really well. However, my main problem is, again, the fact that the gray just kind of shows up in some places and doesn't for some others. Like this leg, this is honestly really consistently painted. I love what we have here. Base, gray, and then brown wash. Same would technically go to this side. Beautifully done. This leg looks good, and then the front, not so much. So for the feet, the last part, splayed feet, very nice, very neat, very interesting as well. Because I called my actually, funny story, like going back to the idea of like fingers and toes. I actually, one time, we're playing a game, I know, I'm putting this in. I once played like a game in elementary school, and I remember this specifically. We had to compliment each other, and I panicked because I forgot that was the point of the game, and I looked at my classmates' fingers, and they're like, I like your fingers. Anyway, little Matthew Mumbles side. For the actual bottom of the feet, looks very awesome, and honestly, not too much as far as like the wash itself goes, but definitely has a lot of nice texture and detail, especially like the copyright info for NECA 2020, little peg on both sides, and yeah, there you go. There's the feet. And so overall, that is going to be the sculpt and paint. Overall thoughts and feelings, I think that the sculpt is going to be the most strongest aspect of it compared to the paint, because where there is paint, it's done phenomenally. Where there's faults in the paint, it's really a fault. Again, let me explain. I would say 80%, I would actually say 85% of this figure looks great. The fur detail, the fur dry brushing, the skin parts of it, the mouth, the eyes, looks incredible. And I love what we have here. But my main problems start to kind of rise with the teeth paint and some of the brown paint in certain sections, like the midsection of the chest, the arms, and the back. Where this almost looks like the Playmate Scar King, where there's like certain sections of it painted, but also not others, where the whip slash would be. But that said, I still think that this Kong is done really well. So for sculpt and paint, I'm going to say 8.5 out of 10 for sculpt and paint. Really great sculpt with near perfect paint applications. Just those issues, and we would have had the perfect figure, in my opinion. Next up, we have articulation. And as I kind of spoiled a bit, we actually have quite a bit. So we're going to break Kong's neck, and we're going to go all the way around with that, which it's going to be on a 360 ball joint, of course, so we can swivel like that. Move all the way up there, down about that far. Left, our left, I should probably clarify. Our right, and yeah, we can tilt, just have a full range of movement, almost like what a head joint on a human would be. And it's kind of like what this figure is mainly good at. For the shoulders, we can go out about that far, in about that far, can rotate a full 360 degrees, along with a nice swivel here, a bicep swivel. Actually, let's demonstrate with this shoulder. I have a bit more fluidity with this one. A bicep swivel as well, just a swivel. For the elbows, which are actually double jointed, we can bend in about this far, straighten out about this far. Let me try that again, because I don't know if the camera picked that up. Swivels here for the forearm and upper arm, where it goes into the bicep. So, pretty incredible range. Swivel hinges for the wrists, which I will say, even though that's a good idea, I definitely think they should have been on, like, swivel hinges in the sense of, like, a Reveltech joint or, like, a Hot Toy style peg. The one where you can, like, rotate in a certain direction and twist it and rotate in the other. Because that does kind of limit your movement as far as, like, side-to-side motion with the hand goes, but you can get a pretty decent rotation out of it. So we're gonna lower Kong's arm back here. For the shoulder, sorry, the waist, we actually have a pretty nice ball joint here, so we can go up, down, left and right, tilt, and have a ton of fluidity with it. For the legs, we are on ratchet joints, so we can go, relatively speaking, high about that far, back about this far, just to give like different angles, and we can rotate a bit inside the socket, although I would not recommend twisting this guy's leg that too much, because depending on how you have this guy posed, it could be a real pain in the butt in order to get it like fully set up again, because there's something just off about these joints, in my opinion. Also, don't worry about like ruining the paint on this thing, or like having it limited, because this whole like leg section is made of like a flexible rubber plastic. I think maybe like a vinyl. So you can get a little bit of play out of it. Though do keep in mind, if you do that too much, then your leg will become warped like mine is now. So there will be gappages. For the knee, we can bend in about this far, straighten out about that far. Can't really rotate, but we can rotate here at the foot, which is at a very weird joint. But then I kind of realized that it's for when you want to split Kong and then have his leg out to the side like that. So if you want to, you can go right ahead. As well, there is a hinge at the foot, although mine, even after all these years, isn't really doing much. So what can I say about the articulation that hasn't already been said by my past videos? Well, here's what I can say. Articulation's phenomenal. I'm just gonna say that. I don't really have any like major problems with the articulation. It has what it has. It needs what it needs. Maybe I could have used a better executed hip swivel or hip system, just because like the hips were never really that great on the NECA King Kongs, and I understand why they did it like that. But I definitely think a more, what would you say, a more solid leg system would have been needed, because, I don't know, just after a bit of usage, looseness is going to become a problem, which is ironic because it's on a ratchet. Now, that said, I definitely also think that maybe the mouth could have been done like as a hinge. But then again, a future release would do that. Spoilers, it was the Concrete Jungle and Skull Island versions. And yeah, that's really about it. As far as, maybe also as well as the hands could have been a different joint. But again, that's really, at the end of the day, just minor nitpicks. So I'm going to give the articulation a 9 out of 10. Near perfect. Now next, we're going to be talking about accessories. And being a NECA figure, which 9 times out of 10 a NECA figure does not come with an accessory, as far as like the Godzilla ones, sad to report that the Kongs kind of carry that tradition. Just kidding. For accessories, we get an alternate head and alternate splayed hands. Keep in mind, this is the original release before we got all those other accessories. So let's talk about the head sculpt. The head sculpt is going to be a, technically, so to speak, a different design of Kong. I know it looks about the same, but just to kind of go over, again, we have the same kind of like brown dry brushing with the more brown ears, and it looks to be the same, right? No. Well, it's in a more pissed off head sculpt with the mouth wide open and the canines on full view here. The teeth are much more sunken in and have actually better paint apps. What I mean by like the teeth, that was a problem on this head sculpt, has been fixed on this one. Although there is a bit of mild overbleedage, some parts, and vice versa with the gums and the teeth right here. So it definitely isn't the 100%. Also, we have the eyes, which are much more pink, and we have more like slashes there. And again, it just looks more like a meaner Kong head. Which, just to show that it is technically, so to speak, a different design, it's a different color, being a lot more of a greenish. It's almost like if you were to put this guy through like a green filter, and this is kind of like what you get. Also, the paint apps have been cleaned up a little bit more, so there's that. The jaw, as you can see, is a bit more squared off, and he has larger teeth. So he's definitely going to be a different head sculpt. It's going to be a different design, technically, so to speak. He also has like much thicker eyebrows in comparison, though he technically has like the same head shape. It's just different. If I had one negative, it's just kind of going to be a bit of a nitpick. Mine's actually got like a bit of a mold line here, which is a bit ugly because even I could notice that. And also because the teeth are a lot more sunken in, it doesn't really look 100% like it doesn't align properly with the actual front teeth, which unlike the 1933 inspired head, like look at how far down the teeth go. See what I'm talking about? Yeah. So to attach this, it's never been easier. You want to see that ball peg. You want to take this guy's head off, and in case it's not working, use a blow dryer to soften up the plastic. And you're gonna see that. There you go. And then you're gonna see this. Look at the. Let's kind of line that peg up and line it with the socket. If you're having trouble, use a blow dryer. I do not recommend hot water. I'd recommend using a blow dryer because you can actually control where the heat goes. And then you peg into the socket, push down, and there you go. You hear a click, and there you go. Now you've got the pissed off head on your Kong. Now wait, let's talk about these hands. Now, this guy comes with his more clenched fists. This guy also comes with the more kind of like open hands. These aren't really necessarily grabby hands, but they're more like grabbing or like, hey, hold on. It's almost like, even though this figure came out before the movie did, it's almost like that one scene in The New Empire when Kong was like trying to communicate with Godzilla, and then he's just like, no, hold on. And then he gets rammed right into the pyramid. Anyway, it's almost like that. So if you know that movie, you know what I'm talking about. Mine's got a bit of like brownish, overbleedage a bit on the fingers. Almost like he was playing in the dirt, which I guess technically could be accurate, but I definitely think that was just an oversight. We also have a bit of orange paint apps on the hands themselves with a crap ton of different detail. And the detail work, again, just looks so incredible. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised at how well this thing looks. Of course, like, it's more like, hey, give me my money. Anyway, that said, this is where the hand articulation comes in. Because remember how it's on a swivel hinge? Well, you want to take it out. Again, if you're having trouble, use a blow dryer. And then peg it in. And there you go. And because it's on a swivel hinge, you can actually rotate it. Same thing with this side. Let's get this on. It's been a while since I actually put the... Oh, ow. I almost pulled something. That wasn't the joint. It was my joint. Okay, yeah, this is hurting my hand to do, so I'm not going to do it on this hand, but you can kind of get the idea as to, like, how to do it. So I definitely need a blow dryer, but I don't have one on my person, because I shaved my head. So as you can see, it looks very ferocious, and I would not want to cross paths with this Kong. So overall, yes, I've got like Addams Family style setup going on with him like talking to himself like, "You're me? Yes, I am." And with the hands like climbing up. And I would say the accessories for what you get are very, very well done. And I do appreciate how it's not just the same design of Kong. It's actually somewhat different, and it looks different. You can actually identify which of the two head sculpts is which. So if you like your more classic Kong head, you can use this one. If you like your more modern head sculpt, because that does look a bit more like the Monsterverse head, minus the beard, I would say that's actually a pretty good way to go. If I had some criticisms, again, I would honestly say that the teeth sculpt on the bottom jaw of the alternate head looks a little bit off because of how sunken it is. And the extra brown paint, while it is neat, like if you were to think about it being dirty, it's clearly a paint oversight, so that's definitely going to be like a bit of a doctor point. I also feel like there should have been a closed mouth head sculpt. Yes, the later releases like the Skull Island and Concrete Jungle versions did fix this issue, but I'm strictly judging this figure on its own accords, and I feel like they really should have had it from day one. So in all honesty, that is a bit of a negative, because if you were to just buy this figure and this figure alone and didn't want to shell out like $25, $30 on another Kong figure that has this exact body mold, nearly the same paint, and just with different accessories, that's not very like consumer friendly, unless you were to just buy one of the Concrete Jungle or Skull Island versions from the get-go. But if you were to buy only this one, you don't really have the option to have a closed mouth head sculpt unless you want to destroy the crap out of your Kong figure just to use custom mouth, which, hey, I don't know if people do that. But as for me, I think the accessories get an honest 8 out of 10. Not bad, but definitely really good. It could have been something better with an alternate head sculpt for a closed mouth and maybe some better sculpt work for the teeth, but that said, it's pretty much really good. Now, sadly, because I am away from my natural setup, I don't have the ability to really go into, like, the size comparisons and pull off figures from my shelf so you can actually see how big this thing is. But this thing is roughly about 7 to 8 inches tall. Just for a size reference of a Godzilla figure I did bring with me, this is the NECA Godzilla 1954. I'm pretty sure this figure needs no introduction on the channel, given the fact this thing was my first figure ever of Godzilla, and the fact that this guy was one of the first 4 figures I reviewed back in 2016. That said, I definitely think that yes, these two figures absolutely do not go well together. Because if you want to be technical, the original Kong was like about 25, 30 feet. He kept fluctuating at the movie, but I feel like that's about the sweet spot. The original 1954 Godzilla was about 164 feet. I could be wrong about that height, but that's from memory. He was about 50 meters tall. So really, this should be about the size of maybe like his foot or his knee. So absolutely not. But I can't help but for some reason love seeing these two together, just because, like, even though, again, their scales are completely off, it's the 1954 Godzilla meeting the 1933 King Kong. And honestly, I feel like with that one in itself is pretty hard not to love. So if the NECA King Kong was maybe a bit smaller, because keep in mind this figure was made to fit within its NECA Figure Ultimates line, because this is what it is, a NECA Ultimate. I definitely think that this figure could have benefited from being in the same scale as the Godzillas, but seeing as how their Godzilla line at the time was coming to a close, hopefully not for much longer, Ben Cooper, this figure really could have been like going toe to toe with their literal King Kong versus Godzilla, but sadly no. It's a bit bigger than its 54 counterpart, but still not by much. The only NECA figure that really does scale with it is going to be the 2003 figure, but even then it's a tad bit shorter, and you do have to get Kong to kind of like do a stance out a bit. So yeah, there's really no Godzilla figure from NECA that ever scaled with this guy. So this figure is sadly going to have to scale on its own. And so overall, what do I think of this figure? This guy is really, really good. He's one of my favorites. In all honesty, I would say in some ways, he's probably like, as far as if you were to strip away all the accessories and all of the gimmicks the other King Kong figures have from NECA and put them on all 4, like not on 4 legs, because this King Kong can actually do that, I would actually say this is probably the best executed. He has really great sculpted paint. He has really nice articulation. And those accessories are a bit, like, in the grand scheme of things, underwhelming compared to the later releases. I would honestly say that this Kong figure is an absolute slam dunk. It's the perfect Kong figure for, like, maybe a beginner's someone who's just new to King Kong and wants like a King Kong figure for the first time, because it's $25 at Target and I think Walmart too. So you can literally go in there for $25 before taxes and walk out with this package. That said, I definitely think, like, as far as bang for your buck goes, you should just definitely get the Skull Island Concrete Jungle version. But if you just want the original King Kong without any like special accessories or other creatures or like chain shackles and like planes, then yeah, this is definitely the King Kong to go with. So for my final score, because I've definitely kind of dragged out this video for much longer than I initially thought it'd be, I'm going to give this guy a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's not a perfect figure. It's very close to being one. Sure, there are a bit of problems, but for the most part, I think that this is a figure I love, and I'm really going to hold close to my heart, especially because I own 2 of them. But with that said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today, I don't know why I took a brief pause there. Today we're going to be taking a look at another NECA King Kong figure. Today we have the second line in sequence, the NECA King Kong illustrated version, or what it's based on, the famous Monsters of Filmland magazine cover. Now, for those that don't know, as I just stated, it's based on the famous Monsters of Filmland cover with like the whole Kong art on it that actually looks, well, again, kind of one-to-one with it, with like the green, yellows, and reds. So this is like NECA's own take on that, because I imagine they probably would have to pay a fee to Famous Monsters of Filmland if they actually wanted to use the name Famous Monsters of Filmland. So they said screw it and just did in the same color scheme, but just said illustrated version, and we got this. So this isn't based on any particular Kong movie poster, which I kind of feel like would be a big missed opportunity, because you guys could have done like a 1933 poster variant. Then again, you probably would have to pay the fee either to Universal or, actually no, you'd have to pay the fee to Warner Brothers. I know the licensing for Kong is very, very complex. But to that I say, this is the figure that they would later release, thanks to the very good reception of the first Kong figure. So with that said, we're going to be taking a look at this guy. So with that said, is this guy as good as the first, or much like a bunch of other sequels, he's just as bad as, well, he's just worse? Let's find out. So first we're going to be taking a look at the head, and off the bat you can automatically see where this guy really falls into the line of being illustrated, and it really does showcase that well with the actual head. For the eyes, we actually have more of like these cartoony-ish done eyes that are more like painted as far as it looking like an actual painting, and it looks very nice, very simplified at that part. Around the eyes themselves are a bit more of like black highlights to bring it more like actual shading work that would be done on an actual painting. And for what we see for the actual color scheme, it is very vibrant, and you can tell NECA just had a field day with the head at least. For the actual head itself, the brows are going to be done similarly to the Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956 illustrated version, which I actually just reviewed just yesterday, both literally and in terms of release, because I'm not intending to release this video until like at least a few days, maybe in like a week from now. The actual head, or the eyebrows, you can actually see it's going to be kind of like a dark base green, kind of like angling it to the side, where the whole like left half of his head and the more upper part of his eyebrows are going to be more of like that dark base green, and then we have some like lighter greens to bring out some more of the highlights. We can see a bit where it's kind of a bit more sporadic, and it looks really nice to actually see on this guy. I'll be a little bit like crusty looking, but it looks really nice nonetheless. We have some like fur skin poking through, which looks nice, and of course the ear. Moving down to this side where we have more yellow, and it kind of tapers off to the right side of his nose and his cheek right here. So again, we have like a darker mustard yellow and then like a more vibrant acrylic looking yellow. So it definitely looks really nice. And of course, to top it all off, we have the centerpiece, technically so to speak, the red, which is mainly on his nose, the more right side of his nose, left side of his nose. There we go. So we have all this red, kind of looks like the Imperial Godzilla, honestly, and then some red accents up here with some red mild accents here and there. And it does look really nice, and I definitely think that because of like the more red paint color used, it looks very snazzy. What I'm not really a fan of is the way that the mouth is done. And now in terms of mold, again, it shares the exact same mold as the original release Kong that we just took a look at. However, what this Kong does not favor really is going to be the paint in the mouth. And what's weird is that they kind of follow the same style of like what they did with the 1956 Godzilla, where they only painted like a handful select teeth. Because like, here's what I mean. The top row has all 6 of the front teeth painted. Yeah, the 2 canines and then the 4 teeth right here. However, you can clearly see that there's no teeth that are actually painted. That's just jet black. Just very, very glossy jet black. Sure, like the inside of the cheek here, like I don't want to call that a membrane, but it's the cheek. Inside the mouth here is going to be painted red. And here it's kind of painted red a little bit too. And I mean, the bottom jaw, it definitely has the tongue painted, which actually does look nice. You actually have some mild gradations of like a more salmon in there as well. But going back to the teeth again, it does that same thing where it's like the front teeth are painted, and then while it does paint like the first 3 teeth actually, first 3 teeth in sequence here, and then I want to say that's the first 4 teeth, the back teeth are not painted at all, and you can clearly see like there's a huge difference. It's almost like he had these teeth removed and then only 1 tooth removed back there. So it's like, why didn't NECA really paint those teeth? I have no idea, but it's kind of a problem when they also did that on the original release Kong, and that's honestly kind of disappointing to me. Moving on down to the chest and the shoulders, much like the actual head, the shoulders and chest are going to be painted in the more kind of like sporadic greens, pinks, and yellows. However, here's kind of where they dial back and it starts to like gradient, not literally a gradient, but it's almost like this is where they did most of it, and then it's going to get less and less as we go on. And what I mean by that is this entire like right shoulder here is going to be plastered in that yellow. Like we can see that yellow going on for straight up days with that fur detail as well, with highlights of pink and green right there and there, which I should also make mention, oh crap, the green is also on this part of the shoulder or the arm, so you do get like the inside of it a bit painted. And of course we do have some yellow right here. Talking about the pecs here as well, they're still well detailed with actually the scars still there, but they're not painted, so and then we have some pink over it with some more green on this side. And yeah, just more green spray and more green on this side. So yeah, it's definitely like this side's green, that side's yellow, and then the middle part would be technically pink. So then we have more fur detail as well with the green here, and it looks really well done. I'm honestly very, very much shocked that it does look as good as it does. Reason why I say shocked is because given the fact that it was only a shot of from above, doesn't really give a whole lot to work with, so they definitely did at least try with like the arms here. Moving to the actual fur, because it's kind of opposing each other, because here you got like a yellow, here you got like a green. And then for the fist, we're going to talk about the right fist, we actually have green painted nails, which is interesting, so Kong definitely got his fingers done. And then we have more yellows on that side and a green paint application on that side. Going down here, we have more yellows, and then a clenched in fist with some more greens. So yeah, it definitely pops as far as sheer color goes. And of course, just to also bring it back in, more greens is here, and yeah, just more mild spray edge. So what seems to be the really big problem with this thing? Well, as we'll see in just a sec, it doesn't really utilize it the same way that the head does. Here you have all this like fur, and not really much of it is painted. Yeah, you do get a mild wash of green and yellow opposing each other on each side, and sure, that looks cool, but where is the paint? Like, this is entirely blank. Essentially speaking, if it wasn't for the wash, this figure would have looked almost the exact same from the original figure if you were to put both of them back to back, quite literally back to back. And honestly, I wish there was kind of like more paint streaks. Like, why not do more of this at the back here? This would have been awesome in all honesty. But as it is, again, the fur detail does still look really nice, and I do like what we have here. Now back to the legs, which again are going to be more or less the same problem with the back, because again, we do have the green that is kind of like opposing a yellow, and we do get some like mild splotches of yellow paint and green paint respectively on the kneecap. So again, they do look really nice opposing each other. And of course, we have some more green paint apps, yellow paint apps, yellow paint apps. Not so much green on this side. You do get a bit of green, but it's not that much. And then here we have the feet, which are going to be more painted in the again, yellow, green. You kind of already get it. It's a yellow, green kind of mixed with pink thrown into basically the upper part of it, because there's really not a whole lot of pink, if not any pink at all. So really just kind of giving you a good look at like the bottom side, the back side. It just doesn't look as like, how do I say this? I feel like what NECA really should have done, and this kind of segues into the whole like sculpt and paint overall thing, because we're kind of done talking about it. I feel like NECA really dropped the ball with this, like as far as the sheer paint, because the head and the upper shoulders, they look great, and I really applaud NECA for at least giving this guy a lot of unique colors and giving us a multicolored King Kong figure, the only one of which we've really seen is the Hong Kong Battle Kong from Playmates from Godzilla vs. Kong. That said, I feel like this figure could have used more. Its entire torso down doesn't really have a whole lot of anything. Yes, it has color, but it's so dilated, and it's just 2 strokes of washes, and that's really it. I feel like if NECA continued like this more classic era paint job from the waist down, it wouldn't look so lackluster. And even though, again, where there is paint, it's done really well, that's the problem. Where there is paint, it's done really well. And even then, the mouth is just... At this point, it's kind of safe to say that of the NECA King Kongs, this is going to be the weakest of the paint jobs. So for paint, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give this thing a 6.5 out of 10. The sculpt is still beautiful, but the paint job, where there is paint, is still really good, but there's just not a lot of it to go around. So 6.5 out of 10 it is. Next up is articulation, and if you've seen the original review, you already know what it is. Head, we can go up, down, left, and right. We can actually go a full 360 degrees because it is on a barbell ball joint. For the shoulders, swivel hinges, so you can go up, down, and pretty much go forward and back. I think you can go pretty much just a full 360. Because it wants to go that badly, we have a bicep swivel. Double hinged elbows, which we can go in and out, and I don't think you can actually like rotate it a bunch. Yeah, it's not really meant for rotation. And a swivel hinge at the wrist, so you can hinge in one direction, then swivel in pretty much a full 360. Ball joint here at the ab crunch, so we can go down, up. That's the legs, by the way. Swivel and lean. The legs here, we can go, we have a ratchet, so we can go pretty much up, down, to the sides, and we can swivel in there if you want to. Knees are going to be on a double hinge, much like the elbows, so we can go like that and rotate. And of course, we have this swivel here at the foot, as well as a back and forth. So, also it is worth noting that the butt flap is still here, so it is kind of rubberized, so it doesn't get a whole lot in the way of the leg posability. So there's that. Also, no monkey booty. So as far as the Kong figure is concerned, as far as articulation, literally nothing has changed from the original figure. Do I think that it's technically, so to speak, worse or something? No. It's literally the exact same. So articulation, again, I would say it's very good. I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10 just because I think that's how much I rated the original figure, because it does have some limitations. For example, the feet don't really like go back and forth that much. They can really only turn at like a very odd angle, which is meant for like splits movements and such. And I definitely think the wrists could have been done a little bit better, because even after having this figure for a few years, they're still like beyond stiff. So I am going to dock some points off that. Also, something that this Kong ironically can't do is look down unless you use the waist. So overall, it's still going to get an 8 out of 10. Still very good articulation. Accessories time, and what do we get? Well, for the head, well, it comes with an alternate head and alternate set of hands, which are more like that. Not necessarily grabby hands, almost like he's about to reach for something, but he's just displaying his hands out like in surprisement. So let's talk about the head. So here's the alternate head, and what I will say is that this is honestly the better done head sculpt compared to the other Kong head, because this is the more pissed off looking head sculpt, which is technically, so to speak, a different design. Just because of the way that the teeth molds and such. Anyway, so for the eyes, again, they're actually more similar to the original release Kong. They kind of throw out the whole illustration version of Kong. And then we have, again, the more, I would actually say this is better done paint applications for the actual, sides of the heads here. Then we have here, which is where the pink and red is, and unlike the more 1933 inspired head sculpt, they actually painted almost all of the teeth. I say almost because actually I could be wrong about that. I think the teeth are all painted. That could be just, I actually can't tell if that's a tooth back there. Anyway, so unlike this one, this guy actually painted all his teeth, which is weird. But you can actually see that the teeth are painted differently. Yeah, so they have a black base where the gum is, and then white, and then kind of like a brownish color compared to this one. So it's definitely cool that they added some variation between the two Kong heads. Also, just to kind of show there is more paint on the new head. Kind of also just noticing this guy has a bit of brown, whether this guy, he kind of has brown, but it's not necessarily in the same spot. So, yeah, we also have some bluish paint on the tongue and some on the gums and some on the teeth. This guy needs a major brushing his teeth and such. Also floss, make sure you floss. Anyway, so that's enough for this head. To put it on, all you just got to do is disattach the head. Ow! Ow! I jabbed my hand in the corner of the review table. And you just simply take this guy's head and you just shove that sucker on. Come on. There we go. I think it's, actually no it's not. This one was always troublesome. But if you're having trouble, don't force it on there. Use a blow dryer. I would not recommend using hot water because hot water can easily warp the plastic. That's not to say a hairdryer can't warp plastic. It's just that beyond a boiling water and a blow dryer, which one would you rather use? Yeah, I think it's on at least securely enough, not to where we can pose it, but this is about as close as I can get it right now. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So I'm just detach that and put this head back on. There we go. Now, let's take a look at the alternate hands. Alternate hands still splayed out. And much like the actual body, which we're going to color correct it here, they are actually opposing each other again. So we have yellow on this side, green on this side, and green painted fingernails, which are awesome. And I wish NECA, again, would have done more paint like this on the feet. But that said, I'm not going to be putting them on because I actually think that the hands here are like, not perma-attached, but they're just really hard to do. But literally all you just need to do is like disattach that hand and then put on this one and you're good to go. Again, use a blow dry. So for the accessories, again, it's the same exact thing we get with the original Kong figure. But that's also kind of the problem. This guy doesn't really do anything new with its concept. I wish this figure did a little bit more, honestly, as far as the accessories go. Although the head is kind of an improvement from its actual, like, in-box head sculpt. That's also kind of a problem because it shouldn't be an improvement if both the heads are packaged with the same figure. So, accessories, I'm gonna say a 7 out of 10. And just for some brief size comparisons, here he is with some other Godzilla and Kong figures from NECA, with the 1956 Raymond Burr poster version from Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the original release NECA King Kong. And I will say again, this is like kind of like the closest thing I have to this thing as far as like Godzilla from NECA's go. I still stand by what I said, preferring this guy over this guy, just because like, as far as sheer execution goes, I feel like the original release is just better than the repaint. So, say what you will about the new color scheme, but we'll talk about that in my final thoughts. Which starts now. So, what are my overall thoughts? I think that this guy, on its own terms, is a good figure. It's not perfect, and it's not great. I think it's just good. However, compared to the original and what would later come after this guy, I think it's kind of safe to say that this thing is the weakest of the 4 NECA King Kongs they've made. It's true that this thing does have some really good articulation and a really good sculpt, but everything is just basically reused from the 1933 original, inspired original release NECA King Kong. It shares the exact same mold, the exact same accessories, the exact same articulation. The only thing that's different is the paint application. And I honestly feel like that's kind of not enough to justify this figure's existence, because I mean, you could technically make the argument that it's a different design of Kong because it's based on the famous Monsters of Filmland, where that is more NECA's own unique take on Kong. But I feel like with the amount of paint that is left untouched on the torso, below, and plus the back, mainly confined to like the upper chest and shoulders and head, this figure should have had something else to justify its own existence. And ultimately, that's really what this thing fails to do. Is this at least a good executed done figure? Kinda. Because I feel like if NECA really wanted to go for a more illustrated look, they had to have went the full mile. Not just halfway. They went a quarter of the mile, I would honestly say. So my overall rating for this guy is a 7 out of 10. Not the best figure of the bunch. It's at least good. As for my recommendation, only if you're planning to get the NECA King Kongs, only for completionists, really. Unless you absolutely love the famous Monsters of Filmland design for some reason, and you must have a figure of its existence, I guess this is the one, because there's really not a whole lot. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're taking a look at the third entry in NECA's King Kong line, the Skull Island version of Kong. Now, for those that are wondering, no, this is not based on Kong Skull Island. This is based on just the original 1933 Skull Island scenery of Kong himself. And joining me today is my sister, and she's going to be dropping a bit of comments on the figure itself. I wanted to do this, so I decided to drag her along with me. So with that said, this is going to be, again, another review of the 8th wonder of the world, so I don't feel like I have to go through the origins of this freaking monkey, like, for the 5th billionth time. So with that said, we're just going to hop in right into it. So first off, we're going to take a look at the head here, which is going to be a very pissed off looking head sculpt with those ferocious canine teeth we see right here and here, with a more kind of bloody, dull accents for the gums, which is completely opposing to the original release, which was more vibrant as far as the actual color scheme goes. For the eyes, they're more black and white, which kind of leads me to believe that at some point this was going to be a black and white Kong before they just ditched it and made it like another gray, kind of like gray color scheme with the face, and then everything else would just be brown. For the actual flesh tone and all the blood, it looks super realistic. I've always thought that it kind of looked like the painters at NECA like cut themselves and then used their blood as like actual paint. Like, that's something I've always appreciated. You have anything to say?
They actually cut themselves?
I said, like, it looks like they did. Not that they actually did. That would be very morbid and very creepy. For the nostrils, they're actually sculpted in very well. Like, I'm surprised how deep they go. So they didn't actually just shallow them out. They actually took the time to detail it. And then we have, like, large gashes on the side, as well as this side right here. Up on the forehead, which looks like he got hit too hard on the head with, like, probably a large tree. We have, like, this big enlarged bulge right here. And then we have more wounds across the face as well. Some of them look more fresh than others. Like this, I imagine, is probably healing. This one probably he just got. Like, it looks like he's just fresh from a battle. Which is probably why he has this facial expression.
Why is his chest chest and teeth more glazed than his fur?
That's a good question. Probably just because, like, that's where his skin is. Like, best question is, or sorry, best answer I could probably give. Because, again, we have more, like, wounds and cuts here, but I guess that doesn't really explain the chest thing, but...
Does it include the wounds that are on the fur?
The wounds that are on the fur?
Is there a little bit of glaze on it?
A little bit. You can kind of see where there's a bit right here.
No, not on the chest area. I'm talking about around on the face.
On the face, there's a little bit, more towards, like, the darker red. The lighter reds don't have that a little bit. They almost look like, again, like they're healing. So, because you can see there's a clear color difference between this and this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, moving back to the chest, we have a bit more wounds. This one's a bit more painted. It's not so much, like, sculpted on. At least I don't really think it is. But at the same time, we have a lot more fresh cuts here, which on the original, I don't think it was like this. He did have wounds on the original version, but it wasn't like this. But going to the shoulders... not so much wounds here, which you'd think that that's where all the wounds would be, because, you know, he's literally tangling with dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. But then again, maybe he's, like, trying to keep him at, like, an arm's reach. Maybe he was ambushed. Maybe this is the reason why he looks like this. Again, in the film, it never really looks like this, because it's all in black and white. Mm-hmm. So maybe at a certain point, it's just NECA's, again, own unique take on the gorilla. So we have more like the gray base with the brown wash. And for the hands, more or less the same kind of like grayed out glossy finish we see with the rest of the fingers. And unlike the illustrated version, it's actually a bit more consistently painted. Then again, that one was like, all the different colors, like reds, yellows, greens, and pinks. Mm-hmm. Moving to the waist section, where we can see a ton of different detail to be going around here. It's kind of the similar case with the Concrete Jungle, the original release, where it was softened out details for like more paint. Although the detail work here is very well done for what you get, and it does look very much like fur. Kind of similar to what Playmates did with the Godzilla Kong the New Empire line. And then here we have the legs, more or less the same. At least with this, they actually kind of cleaned up the brown paint a bit, because one of my complaints with the original was the overabundance of gray showing up through the brown, because like you'd have this big streak of gray and it didn't look that good. And then here you actually have some actual brown dry brushing, which is nice to see. And of course for the feet, details at the bottom, we have screw holes, lack thereof, and more arcing back than the original, which I'm guessing is just they retooled it. Arching back? Okay. Because the original had like a bit of a stance to him, like almost like this. This one you can actually kind of like straighten down. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like that on all crosses, but on mine it wasn't like that. So I'm just gonna do one more final shot of the back on both sides. And one more shot at the front. So yeah, he's definitely gonna be the same base sculpt compared to the original, as we're gonna talk about in the later part of the video. But as you can just see, this thing just looks menacing and absolutely awesome. What do you think?
I guess it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but she's not doing the Kong or Godzilla. Weird, because you're the only one who actually watches these movies with me. But that said, I definitely dig what we have here. It's definitely an improvement from the original, but if I had like one complaint, it would probably be the black and white eyes, just because they don't really match the rest of the body. Because if you're having both this guy and the original on the same shelf, i.e. me, it doesn't really look that coherent and doesn't really look like the same Kong once you actually look at it like this.
Of which scene is this Kong? Because like he looks angry just right after the battle.
This isn't really based on like any specific scene. It's just mainly based on the idea that he's from Skull Island and like trying to wrangle with all of its creatures, because this film, NECA's Kong is utilizing the public domain. So it's not based on any particular movie design, although this is heavily inspired by the 1933 film.
Okay.
So, I would honestly say Sculpt and Paint is definitely better than what you get with the original, just by a little bit. So I would say, you know what? 9 out of 10. Actually, let's bump that up to a 0.5. I definitely feel like those eyes are a bit distracting once you actually let it get to you. Plus, mine are kind of messed up. So there you go. 9.5 it is. Alright, let's see how well this thing can dance. And considering the fact that this is the third time in a row we're taking a look at a sculpt, it's pretty self-explanatory. Head has a ball joint, so we can look up. Of course, I pop off the head because this thing is a piece of crap. So, let's retry that. Head can look up. Not so much down, but he can look straight ahead. To his right, and then to his left. And then it can, again, rotate a full 360 degrees. What's fun to note is actually removing the head again. It's a barbell-style ball joint, so you have one peg that pegs into the head itself and allows for some movement, and then you have a bigger socket that plugs into the neck and the shoulders for additional movement, so you can kind of combine the two joints and actually get an extra set of movement with it. So it at least amps up the range a little bit. Swivel hinges for the shoulders, so you can go up about this far, down a full 360 degrees. Bicep swivel. Bicep swivel. Come on. There you go. Double hinged elbows, so you can go in, out, and then swivel at the wrist. Kong's ab crunch, which we can go pretty much a full 360 at the waist, so he can think he's Mecha Godzilla and fighting Godzilla and himself at the same time. And then you can go arcing forward, arcing back. There you go. Then go side to side with it as well.
I like how you say arcing.
I've always said arcing. I don't know why I don't say arch, I say arc. Maybe the whole idea of me saying arch instead of arc can be my own character arc or character arch. Come on, you're not the only one with dad jokes. For the leg ratchets, we actually have a bit of ratchets here. So we can click
I don't know how much clicks you can get out of this thing because it does vary from figure to figure. But
why does he click there?
To help the legs kind of stand. So over time, it doesn't get like super loose. So you can actually hold the position better. So it kind of like snaps into place. And you can actually go out to the side as well. So if you want Kong doing the splits as well. Here for we have the thigh flaps and flaps. So in case if like you want to get the Eighth Wonder of the World to actually like, I don't know, do this. You can kind of do that because it's all made of rubber. Mm-hmm. And then you have the hinges at the knee, so it almost looks like you can get him to play a game of soccer. So score. Funny because Godzilla actually has played sports before. And then you have the foot joint, which is at an awkward angle, but you can actually get a bit of like hinge. There's a bit of a hinge right there, not too much, but you can just kind of get like this. Mm-hmm. So you can combine all the leg posability to get Kong like some sort of crazy stance like this. Although it does kind of look like his ankles are broken. So maybe he's got like broken ankles or something. Yeah. So, yeah. I need a NECA figure stand. Because some of these Kong love to like collapse on each other. But yeah, when you really set it all done, you can get a lot of like nice poses, kind of backing my camera up. You can get a really lot of nice poses, and for anyone wondering, you can actually get this guy on all fours. Takes a little while to set up, which I know what you mean by like restraint and everything. Wrong fists, but that's what I have to do. So it doesn't look 100% like the way it should, but it does. You can definitely see that it does go on all fours. So, articulation, I would say, again, much like the original, it's the same exact damn thing, but what you do get is a plethora amount of articulation. However, don't be me in 2021 like a total idiot and break your concrete Jungle Kong right out of the gate. Roll the clip.
Nice beauty. Look at that. I should probably have heated this thing up.
Now we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, as you can see, this Kong has definitely been through a little bit of his battles, and he definitely needs a bit of articulation to accommodate those battles. So, articulation, would there be anything I'd add? Well, the wrists definitely feel a lot more fluid than the original ones do. And the feet posability as well just feel a bit more freed up. But I still don't really like how there's not really there's not really a back and forth movement with the legs. Like, if I try to, the whole leg kind of goes like that. So I'd also maybe add like an extra ball peg right here, just to kind of get him to look down a bit more. So there is that. So I'm going to have to say, what's a fair rating for this?
7.3.
7.3? I was thinking of something a little higher. Just because, like, I love the amount of posability that this thing has. But then again, you do get like, a lot of hindrance with it.
Yeah.
So I get...
It's like you have to force it. You have to literally force it to move. Like, just too much wrist strength.
Yeah. I'm thinking... I would actually kind of consider like an 8 or something.
For me, it's a 7.3.
I mean, an 8 and a 7.3 are not that far off the scale.
I know. That would be your rating of an 8. Mine is a 7.3.
All right. Well, there we go. There's our ratings. For an added bonus, what's a Kong from Skull Island without some accessories from Skull Island? And here comes my sister's vape juice. Anyway, frick. Smelling up.
Cool added effect.
If we were doing toy photography, sure. Man, this would be more appropriate for Godzilla, not Kong. Anyway, for the alternate head sculpt, just kind of showing it on both angles. This is
add an effect. Just let me.
You're my new smoke machine. Anyway, this is going to be the remodeled head sculpt from the 1933 inspired head that had it more like this. And as an added bonus, it has more scarring, the black and white eyes, and an added hinge. So at least you have a better head sculpt with it. However, I do think that the hinge here is a bit awkwardly placed because Kong is a humanoid creature, and trying to put a hinge on a humanoid creature just doesn't look right. Look at this. But I mean, his paint job is, in my personal opinion, not as good as the original because it just kind of looks a bit more one note. But it does look really nice when it actually blended all together with the actual figure, which we'll talk about in just a sec. Then comes the extra juicy part. We have more hands, which are going to be more like splayed out, like, oh crap, what's happening? It almost reminds me of that one scene in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire where it's like in Egypt, and then Godzilla tackles Kong, but he like puts his hands up like, no, don't do it. If you remember that scene. Mm-hmm. We here have the fur here. Looks consistent enough with the actual design that we're working with. So there's that. And then we get a pair of clenching fists. The regular fists that the Kong has that are like somewhat mildly grabbing. So you can actually like punch someone or something with this. Mm-hmm. And then we have a large log, which is going to be based on, well, probably more inspired by the scenes where Kong literally takes the tree branch and like whacks his opponents.
Oh, I was thinking of stuffing, what was it, that one meme where he stuffs Godzilla with a
Oh yeah, because in 62 he like takes a giant tree and then shoves it down Godzilla's throat.
Eat your broccoli.
Here we have a pit monster, which is also from the original movie. These are the creatures that inspire the MonsterVerse skull crawlers. Mm-hmm. And here we have the last one, a pteranodon, which I now know is called a pteranodon, not a pterodactyl, which is going to have a bit of that dot matrix printing that you guys may also remember from the Godzilla vs. Biollante bio attack. Mm-hmm. So that's quite a bit of accessories, so let's kind of pan back over to the actual figure and let's kind of put them on. So first up is we're going to take a look at the head, which just to show, they're actually two different designs. This one has a bit more of like a pissed off expression because you can see where the scars do land. They're different. So we're just going to take the head up.
So why are they different then? Why are they different?
Why are they different? NECA just wanted to make like different versions of Kong, but just save money. So my guess is that they just put the different head sculpts on. So for the original, there was more of like, again, like a 1933 inspired head sculpt. And then there was a more modern-ish-esque version because I did take a look at them and the teeth are like way different on the two. Plus they have like different facial expressions and face shapes. So the mouth does open and close on this thing. It doesn't really look 100% great. I think the eyebrows are like just too thick. Because like that side profile, only a mother could love that face. Fitting because he has no mother. Anyway, let's bring back the original head just because I don't want to have to constantly unplug and deplug these things. Next, we're going to take a look at the wrists, which I don't... there we go. I want to make sure I'm not breaking crap. We can peg on the side this splayed hand arm, which if you're having trouble, use a blow dryer. I've seen NECA recommend water. Do not use water. That'll just fuse the plastic easier than something like a blow dryer. You can actually control where it goes versus hot water where it just goes all over the place. Then you're going to have washed off paint and an absolutely wrecked figure. So there's going to be his hand.
Use acetone. Use acetone.
Acetone.
Just kidding. Acetone is basically an acid.
How did I not realize that?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't use acetone. And then you're going to have the clenched fist, which is actually going to come default with the original release and the illustrated version, which is gonna be around the same sculpt, I believe. It's just that the originals don't come with like the splayed hands, these hands, and then like all the other accessories and crap. So moving this accessory back into place. Next, we're going to take a look at that log, which is going to be very, very, very long, surprisingly, because think about how big this log would have to be in order for Kong to actually, like, carry this. So you just literally slide it into the hand like this, and boom, Kong's ready to shove it down Godzilla's throat. If I had a Godzilla figure on me, I'd absolutely do that right now. But, there we go, get it out. The pit monster, you can actually fit the tail into the hand, but I actually would just recommend just having it alongside the pit monster, just because like this, it kind of looks like he's trying to scurry away, but he's in a sculpt position that almost like demands him being in like a like him on the ground running away. Which for the actual pit monster, it's going to contain some pretty fine details and like orange, no, not really orange, like a greenish olive wash to him, and actually has some articulation at the jaw and the head. Which, how they're able to fit a joint on this but not Rodan is beyond me. And of course we have the Pteranodon, which has a head articulation, swivel hinge, and a very, very, very wide hinge for the jaw. Like, look at that.
You know, to make your scenes more, like, great, you need invisible string.
Invisible string. That would be... I tried that before, but I didn't really have, like, great control over where it went. So that's kind of why I stuck to, like,
Why
using
not
my hands.
wiring? Why not wiring?
Wiring.
Like invisible wiring.
I never really tried that. I'm gonna tuck that into my mind bubble, or whatever you call it. Anyways, for the actual Pteranodon, I don't think you can actually hold the Pteranodon. I could be wrong about that. Like, watch as I actually find out that you can. Speaking of frickin' devil. So, I mean, it's not really meant to look like that. So, for the amount of accessories you do get, it's actually pretty well. Like, you get an extra set of hands, head, creatures, plus a large log. So, definitely leaves a lot to the imagination as far as a Skull Island variant goes. But I definitely think that there's one missing. Where's the T-Rex? Because they never made a T-Rex to go with this thing.
There was a T-Rex?
Yeah, in the original film, there was he fought a T-Rex.
Oh.
In the 2005 film, he fought an evolved version of the T-Rex named the V-Rex. The Statosaurus Rex, I think. So, as you can see, tons of different accessories, and I like what we have here. Just make sure you have a dinosaur that's ready to square up with him. As for my personal rating, I would say the face is done pretty well. Not so crazy over the hinge, because again, even though it's kind of what I wanted, it doesn't really look the best. I feel like they could have maybe cleaned up that hinge scene a little bit more. Then you have the alternate hand, which take them or leave them. And then you have the log, pit monster, and the Pteranodon. So I would say accessories get a 8.5. Again, I have nothing really overly negative to say about it. It's cool and I like it. What would you rate it?
I think I like the accessories more than the original head. Due to the fact that it has the hinge. However, the one takeaway that I don't like is that the mouth area is a lot more different. Because where the teeth are more out in the one on the Kong, those ones are more inwards. Along with the placement of the scars or the open wounds are just not the same. Yeah, so I give it a 6.
Little low for that, huh? But I do understand what you're talking about. I think, like, the teeth thing, this is just a comment, like, not necessarily disagreeing or trying to put down your critique. But my guess is that just because, like, the way the lips are done, because here the lips are more, like, outward, and then here the lips are more close to the gums.
But teeth and skull placement don't change.
Right, but the lips do, right?
The lips do, definitely, but the teeth...
Actually, no, you're right, because I'm now looking at it, there's clear difference, okay. So, okay, you had the right idea. So, yeah, that's just my rating, that's her rating. On to the next part. And for some brief comparisons, here he is with the entire line of NECA's Kong catalog, with the original release, Concrete Jungle, an illustrated version from the famous Monsters of Filmland magazine cover. And as you can see, he definitely blends in very well. And in fact, essentially speaking, these two, not him, these two are essentially the same base figure, just with different accessories, which is why I put the chain shackles on him. Not to mention, again, when I was like, I don't even remember how old, back in 2022, I broke this thing like a freaking idiot out of the box, like, right there and then. And as for this guy, he's all colorful and looks like he just got out of a paintball fight or some sort of party. And here he is with the next review in sequence, the NECA 1964 Godzilla from Mothra vs. Godzilla. And as you can see, they actually go decently well together. Kong's a bit taller just because this was one of NECA's more later figures towards the end of their line. But then again, the 2003 was probably like a bit taller than even the 64, so that Godzilla would definitely scale well with this one. And for final thoughts, I think that this is actually the best of the original wave of Kong figures. Hopefully not the only wave, but definitely one of the best as far as the actual quality is concerned. The sculpt is pretty good for what you get. Actually, no, it's not pretty good. It's great. The articulation is pretty posable, but definitely hinders quite a bit as far as like the limbs are concerned. And the accessories, you do get quite a bit amount of it. And I'm genuinely surprised that they actually bothered to release this thing, because this was like, I think, one of 2 releases for Father's Day of 2021, I believe. I could be wrong about that. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's literally just the difference. Alright, so pretty much to round out the review, I'm going to give this guy a final score of 8 out of 10. It's better than the original, I would say. Leagues better than the illustrated variant. But as for the Concrete Jungle, that remains to be seen. How do you rate it?
7.5.
7.5, so not that far from my rating. With that said, thank you guys for watching. This is going to be one of many Godzilla Kong videos that I plan on making, so on a weekly basis. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya, guys.
If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another figure review. My name is Matthew, and before I do start this figure review, I would like to address something that I am currently recording circumstances under. I'm currently sick. I have the flu, or at least some sort of like flu thing. For all I know, I might have COVID again. I actually have had it twice, but that said, I might be a bit under the weather as far as like the review itself is concerned. So if I do sound a bit snuffly, please excuse that. I will still try to get this video done because I'm still passionate about what I make and I want to bring you guys some cool content. That said, today on this figure review, we are reviewing the NECA King Kong Concrete Jungle version. This is going to be the 4th and final figure of NECA's King Kong line. Well, more specifically, the line of part of a larger whole. See, this isn't directly called the NECA King Kong line. In fact, it's not just called the NECA King Kong. It's actually the NECA Ultimates line. Yeah, basically what it is, it's just a bunch of characters from a different IPs in the 8-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch scale with a boatload of different accessories, different repaints, different retools, and just all in the same line called the NECA Ultimates. That said, the same goes with the Kong, because it's not technically a license, it's public domain. NECA can do whatever the hell they want with it. And, yeah, it's essentially the last Kong figure they released, which honestly kind of sucks, because I was really hoping they would maybe go back and do some, like, older versions. I know that rights are complex, but it'd still be possible, like a full-on 1933 Kong, a 2005 Kong, a 1970s Kong, or even go to the Monsterverse. You know, you guys haven't touched the Monsterverse Kong yet. But, c'est la vie, we got an NECA King Kong anyway. 4 of them, I'm happy with them. But, of course, we're going to take a look at the Concrete Jungle version, and, yeah, let's just go over right to the review. So, for the figure, sculpt and paint-wise, this is going to be the exact same thing as the, Skull Island version. And I don't mean in the sense of, oh, it's a repaint. No, it's literally the exact same figure, just with different accessories. So, we're going to be a bit more brief with this, just because
And I want to make it clear that I do intend on replacing this guy eventually. I don't know when. Particularly because of one stupid thing I did when I first got this guy, and I handled him like a complete moron a few years ago. So, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So first up, we're going to take a look at the more pissed off head sculpt, which we've already seen has the black and white eyes, which have a pinkish tint, the gray skin that comes around with the scarring, and the wounds having freshly cut ones, and ones that are more healed up, much like actual, like, natural wounds. The mouth looks a bit kind of grunk. I don't know how to properly describe it. It looks very, very realistic with, like, the more realistic paint job that's here. We have the dry brushing of brown, which looks a lot more vibrant than the original one did, although that could just be my current lighting conditions. And, of course, looking down, looking to the left, to the right, his left, his right, and then his Jimmy Neutron style hairdo. There you go. We have the ears, which are also sculpted and painted pretty well. Although, ironically, I'd still say that the Playmates ones are slightly better sculpted. Not throwing shade to you, NECA. You guys did really good. As for the torso, it's pretty much the exact same thing still. Freshly cut open wounds across the more, like, skin parts of the body with the red. We have the gray, which is making a return. And all, like, the dry brushing with the fur and the detail work. They actually painted this brown instead of, like, continuing it with the gray for some reason, which is a good thing. But I meant for some reason as, like, the original one did. The brown continues to taper down over here, which I'm just now realizing this Kong's missing a belly button. NECA, you want to explain it? Explain how this thing was not inside a womb? Anyway, for the back, I'm going to be honest and say that I do not like the way that the back is done, because fundamentally, yes, it is still the same sculpt, but the paintwork leaves a lot to be desired, as it's mostly just the gray, because, like, you see this entire section which barely has any brown, and then you kind of have, like, it's almost like it's thinning a paint, and it just doesn't look the way that it should, and it just almost looks ugly, honestly. Which is also a con, is going to be the lack there of a thick monkey booty, which for some reason they love skipping out on the thick monkey booty. But also, by the way, that's not really a con, it's just a comical con. Conical. Anyway, for the arms, they're going to consistently be painted well, at least the upper arms are going to be more consistently painted. This is the way that the back should be, honestly, with, like, the brown highlights on top of a more brown charcoal-esque color. And then here we have the forearm, which for some reason has, like, this big clear stripe of gray that has no brown paint on it. And then we can obviously see that the fists are very well painted and sculpted, as we can see here. So much detail is actually compact within the arms themselves, which I'm very impressed by. Going down to the legs, of course, the very fuzzy fur makes a return here. Of course, why wouldn't it? It looks very, very good, especially, like, how it tapers downward, and it looks almost realistic, I would say. The gray does kind of, like, lose a bit. Sorry, kind of shows up a bit more, like, more towards here, and more towards here, there, and there. Upper legs, I would say, are pretty neat. Sorry, lower legs, sorry, my apologies. And for the feet, they are painted and sculpted really well. I do like the way these things look here. The nails are a bit iffy painted because it looks like he just got, like, ramaged right through the dirt a bit, so... And plus, the bottom doesn't really feature, like, a whole lot of paint, but does feature a lot of good sculpt work. And looks very realistic. Copyright NECA 2020, I should say. There you go. And, yeah, that is basically about it. I'm going to show this guy one more time. So, side profile. Side profile. Back profile. And front profile. So, as for the sculpt and paint, if you don't count the fact that this is technically, so to speak, the 4th time that this mold has been used, I would say that the sculpt and paint is really, really good. And in all honesty, I love it a lot. I do love NECA's own unique take on this Kong, which is more inspired by like the classics 1933 version. Not so much based on a particular film, but it is heavily inspired by that Kong. But that said, when you factor in the fact that this is the 4th time that they've used this mold, that kind of starts to take away from the charm. Because if you're a completionist like I am, at least most of the time, you would realize that you have 4 Kong figures that share the exact same design, say, except for the head and the color scheme. Which, on a baseline, that's really not that good. Like, I'll be honest and say that I would almost have preferred, I'll get into like it right now, or a bit later, but considering the fact that this figure base on base is the exact, not a little bit, the exact same version of Kong that they put out as the Skull Island version, it really just kind of leaves me wondering, like, why didn't they just merge the 2 figures into one and have, like, an ultimate King Kong, where you have all the heads, all the hands, all the accessories, articulation, base sculpt with both sets together. It's honestly kind of confusing. Maybe NECA was just looking at more like, how many Kongs can we sell versus making like a definitive Kong? But if you buy both of them, you're going to be left stuck as to which one's which. It's honestly kind of grateful that I don't have the other one with me right now. But that said, I feel like NECA really should have like at least acknowledged the fact that, hey, we're putting out 2 King Kongs of the same sculpt. Should we or should we not do this? So I'm going to say sculpt and paint, considering the fact that this is the 4th time, at least for me chronologically, because I did technically pick out the Skull Island version before this one, even though I got them at the same time, and they did release at the same time, I'm going to say 7 out of 10. I do feel like that this sculpt is really good and the paintwork is really well done, but that said, it's just kind of getting repetitive, and if NECA ever does plan on doing another Kong figure, we are going to need another sculpt for this thing. But on the flip side, what is good about the sculpt and the fact that they keep reusing it is going to be the articulation. Now, because again, it's the exact same figure, let me talk about this briefly. Barbell style ball joint, which we can go up, down, side to side, swivel 360, swivel hinge here at the shoulders, which we can go full 360, not swivel hinge, just the basic swivel here at the bicep, although mine is incredibly stiff. I think I might have better time with this one. Nope, both arms are either stuck with paint still because I don't really move this thing a whole lot, or they are just like stuck. The elbows are on a double hinge. We can go in about that far, out about that far. Can't really rotate. I mean, you kind of can, but it's not a whole lot. Swivel hinges for the wrists, so you can go in, out, and swivel to your heart's content. Waist, we can go a full 360 degrees, plus we can go back, forward, twist, and lean, of course. The legs, which we can go click, although the click is a lot more silent, but bit of a rubberized butt flap, so we can get a bit of a rotation here. And of course the swivel hinge, sorry, not really much of a swivel hinge, but it is on a hinge, which we can go quite a bit back, quite a bit forward, and can rotate. And of course a swivel hinge for the foot, which has a very awkward peg joint that is kind of like more towards this way, but it offers Kong to kind of like get out to the side and does the splits. So again, for the articulation, it's good and it is very, very well done. But that said, again, it's the 4th time we've seen the articulation here. Although one of the accessories, spoiler alert, it's the alternate head sculpt, has a hinge that really doesn't add anything when, again, it's literally the same exact Kong that we've gotten already. So I'm going to say 7.5 is the one, is going to be my score for this one. Also, to address this, you might have also noticed that I picked the left arm as opposed to the right arm. That is because back in 2021, I believe, it was either 2021, I think 2021, I had opened this guy, and then what I did was I immediately bent the hinge on his elbow, and I broke this joint. I completely, snapped it, rolled a clip.
Beauty. Look at that. I should probably have heated this thing up.
Yeah, you can definitely just hear the crack right there and then. And it was broken beyond repair because the actual peg itself snapped, and I didn't want to run the risk of actually going through the trouble of getting a replacement. So, I mean, what's kind of weird is that it kind of bends in. Oh wait, hold on, it wasn't this joint, it was this joint. My apologies. It was this one that I broke. I can't even remember my own joints that I broke. It was this one, because you can clearly see, because this one bends. I'm such an idiot. But yeah, I broke this just right there and then. So do be careful not to bend your NECA Kong joints too far. And that said, let's talk about the accessories. For accessories, if you're wondering why there's also white paint on the table, that is because this is a crafting table. No, literally. It's for arts and crafts. Anyway, for the accessories, like I made mention, it is going to come with, as far as the base accessories go, much like the Skull Island version. So you do get the return of the articulated hinged jaw, the splayed out swivel hinge hands, the return of the grappling hands. So already you do get quite a bit of accessories, but what's unique to this Kong is that it comes with 2 pairs of chain shackles that actually have, I think these are plastic? Actually, no, these are metal. Chain shackles, and a biplane. Yeah, an actual biplane. It's actually pretty cool, so let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories one by one. So first up is the alternate head sculpt. You've already seen it. Let's briefly go over it again. Modified 1933 base head sculpt from the original release from 2020. Has embulged eyebrows, more scarring, and black and white eyes, as well as different mold, different paint job. I mean, same molding details, but different paint. Mine's got a bit of a defect where, I'm guessing the plastic didn't warp correctly, so it's a bit I don't even know what to say, because it looks a bit off here. See that? It just doesn't look 100% the way it should. So yeah, mine definitely has a bit of a defect, which is also part of the reason why I plan on replacing this thing once when I do get it. But again, I've already shown it in the original review, but to basically summarize, let's actually remove this so I don't flick that thing off into oblivion. Let's remove this head sculpt and put this one in. If you're having trouble, use a blow dryer. Do not use hot water because you're just going to warp or melt off the plastic and the paint. And of course, the hinge jaw can open up about that far, down about, close it in about that far, and you can guess do that. And of course, you still get all the articulation you want out of this thing. So let's get this head off and go for the more pissed off head sculpt, because I like this head sculpt a bit more. Anyway, for the chain shackles, I'm only going to demonstrate with one hand, moving my tripod because it's literally about to fall. You can go like that. Take one of the chain shackles, put on the forearm, and then put on the the hand again. Or if you want, you can actually swap it out with another fist. Which I'm actually just gonna do just for the purposes of this video. There you go. Admittedly, while the hands are cool and the chain shackles are good in theory, I feel like Mezco did a better job with their chain shackles, which if you don't know, around here, they actually can split open like with a hinge, and you can actually just clip them onto a Kong figure like that. Sadly, NECA opted to go for the pull and slide in maneuver, which I don't necessarily agree with that, because that's just a lot more tedious. And really, why would you want to just go do that when you could just clip it on? So I definitely think Mezco's chain shackles are a bit better, but I still think that the execution of these things looks really good. And to pretty much bring in the clenched fists, they can actually carry the biplane, which actually, for the biplane itself, the biplane is really well done. We have this big spinny bit, which actually does spin, so you can actually do it in case if you're a stop motion nerd. I don't really do stop motion anymore. I'm more of a puppetry nerd, I guess. Not really puppetry, but you get it. We have some wheels, which do not move, are completely static. We have some rivets that go into the plane itself. Then we have some lineage work, and two guys right here. One of them is actually wearing, actually I think both of them are wearing goggles. Well, let me see. Yeah, both of them are wearing their goggles. I'd actually be surprised if NECA didn't paint that. So yeah, he's holding up a machine gun trying to fire at Kong. And of course, the biplane itself is very, very large. It doesn't even fit into frame. I mean, there we go. So for the actual plane itself, again, going back to it, we can see that the sculpt work is very nice. Mine's kind of coming off here. That's only because I didn't do anything. It was like this since I got it. I just been meaning to repair it. But it's just because it's so small, I don't want to screw it up any more than it already has been screwed up. So yeah, there's the biplane, which basically you can actually slide the seam parts into Kong's grabby hand, and you can actually grab the plane, which is really cool. I'm not going to show it on camera like that, but I think that this is honestly going to be a very unique set, which, as far as the concrete jungle idea, I think it's good, but you got to make sure you have an Empire State Building bust or something ready to go, which I don't know really where there would be one on sale. I'm sure there are maybe 3-4 foot tall replicas of the Empire State out there in the world, or maybe you can just make one yourself and have your Kong up there. But that said, this is definitely a figure you display in an actual pre-existing display, as far as the accessories go. And so overall for accessories, I definitely do think that the NECA King Kong concrete version, it's gonna stand pretty much a good second place to the accessories, because I definitely think the Skull Island version has the better quality accessories, just because I do like the idea of including chain shackles in a biplane with your Kong figure, but there's a few problems with this. The chain shackles, a rival company literally did them better for an identical price point. It's a bit more expensive than this guy, but it's still around the same. Because you can actually clip those on, so actually tearing off the arm plus sliding the shackles in or taking them off every time you want to take them off, it's going to get tiresome, and it's going to get repetitive. And the biplane, I think, is cool in concept and really good in execution, but that's the thing. It's just very good. It's not, completely mind-boggling, as, I feel it also should have had, its own flight stand or something, because Kong, if I remember correctly, he didn't really... I may actually be wrong about that. I'm going to redact that statement before I say anything that's wrong, because I haven't watched the 33 film in a while. But that said, it could have been a little bit better, because that flight stand that could have been towering over this Kong could have been great. So that said, considering the fact that it's also the same one, the same base accessories, the same hands, head, we get with the Skull Island version, I'm going to say another 7 out of 10 for the accessories. A lot better than something like the illustrated version, but doesn't really do a whole lot. And so for the first and only size comparison I can really do, because I'm away from my setup and everything, here he is with the video game appearance Godzilla 1988 Monster of Monsters, or as you longtime viewers of the channel know him as, Game Godzilla. Oh yes. I will admit, this is a very, very unique setup here because, from now on, we're going to be doing mainly NECA Godzilla reviews. I accidentally, swiped out the camera. Anyway, yeah, this is essentially the last Kong figure. And of course, here, they're not really in scale at all. Kong here is supposed to be like 25, 30 feet. This Godzilla is supposed to be at least a few hundred meters. So, yeah. No picking any winners here as far as, the size goes. Although, does this sizing kind of look familiar to you? Yeah, this kind of looks like the Imperial Kong versus the Imperial Godzilla. I would really love to see those figures in person one day. And so, with that said, what do I think of the NECA Concrete Jungle King Kong? I'll say that as far as, stacking them on, a base on base on base, he would actually have to be my second least favorite Kong. Actually, maybe not so much. It's a toss-up between this and the first release, just because, the first release has a lot more to offer as far as the sculpt and paint goes, and this one does have a lot of cool accessories, but that said, if you have all four of them, it's really kind of, tough to say that this one absolutely beats out the other ones. And while I did do that NECA King Kong ranking video a long time ago, chances are it could be outdated. Who knows? That said, I definitely think that this Kong is a great figure on its own merits. It has really good sculpts, really good paint applications, a really nice boatload of articulation, and a nice package of accessories for what you get for $25, $30. However, because I already own the previous three releases, this thing shrinks quite rapidly. The sculpt and paint is something we've already seen 3 times before, the articulation is something we've already seen 3 times before, and the accessories base on base is going to be the same as the Skull Island version. So really, it's almost like, does this figure really need to exist? Could there have been a hybrid figure, where their 2 figures were together? In my personal opinion, there should have been a Skull Island, Concrete Jungle mixed in together. So in my personal opinion, I'm going to do a final rating of 7.5 out of 10 for this guy. He's a bit underwhelming when you pit him against his predecessors, but I would honestly say this is definitely one of the better-ish Kong figures releases in the line. But that remains to be seen. But with that said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.